The rain hammered against the tall windows of Le Bernardin, one of Manhattan's most exclusive French restaurants, on a cold Tuesday evening in March. Outside, the streets glistened with reflected neon lights and the endless stream of yellow cabs navigating through puddles. Inside, the atmosphere was warm, elegant, filled with the soft murmur of sophisticated conversations and the delicate clinking of crystal glasses. Sophia Moreau moved gracefully between their tables, her black uniform impeccable, her dark hair pulled back in a neat bun. At 28 years old, she had been working at Le Bernardin for 3 years, ever since she moved to New York from a small town in upstate New York. Her shift had started 6 hours ago, and exhaustion was beginning to settle into her feet, but she maintained her professional smile. Tips were good here, and she needed every dollar. The restaurant was nearly full that evening. Wealthy couples celebrated anniversaries, business executives closed deals over expensive bottles of wine, and tourists with deep pockets experienced what they believed was authentic French cuisine. Sophia had served them all with the same courtesy and efficiency that had earned her praise from the head chef and regular customers alike. As she cleared plates from table 7, the front door swung open with force. A man entered, shaking droplets of rain from his $2,000 cashmere coat. Marcus Wellington was 45 years old, with salt and pepper hair slicked back perfectly, a tin that spoke of recent vacations in the Bahamas, and a Rolex that caught the light with every movement of his wrist. He was a hedge fund manager who had made his fortune through aggressive investments and even more aggressive business tactics. His reputation in Manhattan's financial circles was well known, brilliant, ruthless, and insufferably arrogant. Behind him followed two associates, younger men in equally expensive suits who laughed at every word Marcus said, whether it was funny or not. The maitre d' approached immediately, recognizing Marcus from previous visits. "Mr. Wellington, welcome back," the maitre d' said with practiced warmth. "Your usual table? The best table in the house?" "Obviously," Marcus replied, not bothering to make eye contact. "And make sure the service is impeccable tonight. I am entertaining important guests." The maitre d' nodded and led them to a corner table with a perfect view of the restaurant. It was Sophia's section. She was finishing putting an order into the computer system when she noticed the new arrivals. Her manager, Antoine, a Frenchman in his 50s with thinning hair and perpetually worried expression, approached her quickly. "Sophia, table 12. They are particular guests," Antoine said in his thick accent, choosing his words carefully. "Mr. Wellington is a big spender, but he can be difficult. Be patient, smile, and everything will be fine." Sophia nodded, grabbing 3 menus and a wine list. She had dealt with difficult customers before. In 3 years of working in high-end restaurants, she had developed a thick skin and the ability to remain professional even when customers were rude, condescending, or outright hostile. It was part of the job. She approached table 12 with confidence, her smile warm and genuine. "Good evening, gentlemen. Welcome to Le Bernardin. My name is Sophia, and I'll be taking care of you this evening. Can I start you with something to drink? Or would you like a moment to look over our wine selection?" Marcus looked up from his phone, his eyes scanning Sophia from head to toe in a way that made her skin crawl. It wasn't appreciative. It was dismissive, the way someone might glance at furniture in the store they had no intention of buying. His lips curved into a smirk. "Sophia," he repeated, drawing out her name mockingly. "What kind of name is that for someone working in a French restaurant? Shouldn't you be named Marie or Bridget or something?" His associates laughed dutifully. Sophia's smile didn't waver, though something cold settled in her chest. "Sophia is my given name, sir." "Now, about those drinks, hold on," Marcus interrupted, leaning back in his chair with exaggerated casualness. "I have a better idea. This is a French restaurant, right? The finest French cuisine in all of Manhattan, they say. So, curious what ye am thinking." He pulled out his wallet, a thick leather billfold, and made a show of extracting a stack of crisp $100 bills. He counted them slowly, making sure Sophia could see. 50 $100 bills, $5,000. The nearby tables had started to notice the commotion. Conversations quieted slightly as curious eyes turned toward table 12. Marcus placed the money on the table, smoothing it out with his palm. I'll give you $5,000, right here, right now, if you serve me entirely in French for the rest of the evening. Every word, not a single word of English. What do you say, Sophia? Easy money for someone like you, isn't it? His associates erupted in laughter, slapping the table. The challenge hung in the air like smoke, heavy and suffocating. Other diners were now openly watching, some with expressions of disgust at Mercouzet's behavior, others with morbid curiosity about how Sophia would respond. Sophia stood perfectly still, the menu still in her hands. $5,000. That was nearly 2 months of rent for her tiny studio apartment in Queens. That was the money she desperately needed for her mother's medical bills back home. Her mother, who had been diagnosed with breast cancer 6 months ago and whose insurance didn't cover all the treatments. $5,000 could change everything. But as she looked at Mercouzet's smug face, at the way he lounged in his chair like a king on a throne, she felt something else rise within her: dignity. He wasn't offering her money. He was trying to buy her humiliation, to turn her into a performing monkey for his entertainment and ego. Sir, Sophia said calmly, her voice steady despite the tremor she felt inside, I appreciate the offer, but I am here to provide you with excellent service in English, which is the language we use to serve all our guests. Now, may I suggest our sommelier to help you with the wine selection? Mercouzet's smile faded, his face darkened, and his jaw tightened. He wasn't used to being refused, especially not by someone he considered beneath him. Excuse me, do you know who I am? I don't think so. But that doesn't change how we operate here at Le Bernardin. I spend more money in one evening than you probably make in 6 months. Mercouzet's, his voice rising. You should be grateful I am even offering you this opportunity. You are just a waitress. This money could change your life. Sophia felt every eye in the restaurant on her. The weight of judgment, curiosity, pity. She thought of her mother lying in a hospital bed, weak from chemotherapy, telling Sophia over the phone that she was fine, that Sophia solved worry, that everything would work out. She thought of the stack of unpaid medical bills on her kitchen counter. She thought of the second job she'd been considering taking to make ends meet. But she also thought of her father, who had passed away when she was 15, who had always told her, Sophia, never let anyone make you small. Your worth isn't measured by your bank account. So, I am going to ask you one more thing, Sophia said, her voice now carrying steel beneath its professional veneer. Would you like to order, or should I give you more time? Mercouzet's stood up abruptly, his chair scraping loudly against the wooden floor. This is outrageous. I want to speak to your manager immediately. I will have you fired for your insolence. Antoine appeared within seconds, having been watching the situation unfold from across the room. Mr. Wellington, is there a problem? Yes, there is a problem. Mercouzet's shouted, pointing at Sophia like she was an object. Your waitress here is refusing to serve me properly. I made her a very generous offer, and she threw it back in my face. This is the worst service Evie ever experienced. Antoine looked between Mercouz and Sophia, his expression pained. Sophia knew what was coming. The customer is always right, even when they were absolutely wrong. That was the unspoken rule of high-end service. Mr. Wellington, please allow me to apologize, Antoine began, his hands clasped together. Perhaps we can, perhaps nothing. Mercouz interrupted. Either she serves me the way I want, or she is gone. Your choice, Antoine. But I promise you, if you don't handle this properly, I'll make sure every person in my network knows about the terrible service at Le Bernardin. I'll destroy your reputation. The restaurant had gone completely silent now. Even the kitchen sound seemed muted. Sophia stood frozen, waiting for the inevitable. She would be fired. She would lose this job, this income, any sense of helping her mother. All because she refused to be humiliated. But then something unexpected happened. A woman stood up from table 5, an elegant woman in her 60s wearing a simple but expensive black dress and pearl necklace. Her silver hair was styled perfectly, and her posture radiated authority. She had been dining alone, working on a laptop while enjoying her meal. Excuse me, the woman said, her voice cutting through the tension like a knife. He couldn't help but overhear this exchange. Mercouzet's turned to her, irritation flashing across his face. This doesn't concern you, lady. The woman smiled, but it wasn't warm. It was the smile of someone who had dealt with men like Marcus her entire life and had long ago was impressed by them. Actually, it does concern me. You see, I happen to be Marguerite Dubois, and I own this restaurant. The color drained from Antoine's face. He hadn't recognized her. Marguerite rarely visited the floor during service hours, preferring to observe from the kitchen or her office upstairs. Marcus's associates exchanged nervous glances. Marguerite walked slowly toward table 12, her heels clicking deliberately against the floor. Every step commanded attention. Now, Mr. Wellington, you've been sitting here for the past hour, enjoying my meal and working on some business proposals. And what you've witnessed is not a waitress providing poor service, but rather a customer attempting to humiliate one of my finest employees for his own amusement. I was just having a bit of fun, Marcus started. Fun? Marguerite's voice turned icy. Offering someone money to perform for you like a circus animal is fun. Making someone choose between their dignity and their livelihood is fun. I don't find that fun, Mr. Wellington. I find it despicable. Marcus's face was turning red now, a vein pulsing in his temple. Do you have any idea how much money I spend here? I could take my business elsewhere. Please do, Marguerite said simply. Le Bernardin has been operating for over 40 years. We've survived recessions, pandemics, and countless difficult customers. We will certainly survive without your patronage. What we will not survive is compromising our values and the dignity of our staff for the sake of profit. She turned to Sophia, her expression softening. Sophia, are you all right? Sophia nodded, her throat tight with emotion. Yes, Ma, I am. Good. Please return to your other tables. Antoine will handle Mr. Wellington's departure. Marguerite turned back to Marcus, who was now standing there, his mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. Mr. Wellington, I am going to have to ask you and your associates to leave immediately. Your behavior is unacceptable, and you are no longer welcome at Le Bernardin. You can do this, Marcus sputtered. Yell sua. Yell what? Marguerite interrupted calmly. Suma for refusing service to someone who harassed my employee. Please, be my guest. I have excellent lawyers, and I have a restaurant full of witnesses who saw exactly what happened here tonight. Now, leave before I call the police and have you removed for disturbing the peace. Marcus grabbed his coat furiously, snatched the $5,000 from the table, and stormed toward the exit, his associates scrambling after him. Just before he reached the door, he turned back one last time. You will regret this, he shouted. Marguerite didn't even turn around. The only person who will regret it is you, Mr. Wellington. Good night. The door slammed shut. For a moment, the entire restaurant remained silent. Then, slowly, applause began. It started with one person, then another, and soon the entire dining room was clapping. Sophia stood there, overwhelmed, tears threatening to spill from her eyes. Marguerite approached her and placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. Come with me to my office for a moment. In the small, elegantly decorated office upstairs, Marguerite poured 2 glasses of water and handed one to Sophia. Sit, please, Sophia said, her hands shaking slightly as she held the glass. Mrs. Dubois, I am so sorry. I didn't mean to cause a scene. I just called until you have nothing to apologize for, Marguerite said firmly. What you did down there took tremendous courage. It would have been easy to take his money, to swallow your pride and give him what he wanted. But you didn't. You stood your ground, and it tells me everything I need to know about your character. But I need this job, Sophia said quietly, voicing her greatest fear. I need the money. My mother is sick, and I know about your mother, Marguerite said gently. Antoine mentioned it to me a few months ago when you requested time off for her surgery, which is actually what I wanted to talk to you about. Sophia looked up, confused. Marguerite walked to her desk and pulled out an envelope. We've been looking for someone to manage our new location that we're reopening in Brooklyn this fall. It's a smaller establishment, more intimate, but with the same standards of excellence. I need someone who understands not just fine dining, but who understands people. Someone with integrity, leadership, and the ability to handle difficult situations with grace. She handed Sophia the envelope. This is an offer letter, restaurant manager position, with a significant salary increase and full health benefits that would cover your mother's treatments. Sophia opened the envelope with trembling hands. The salary listed was nearly triple what she made now, though her vision blurred with tears. Mrs. Dubois, I don't know what to say. Say yes, Marguerite smiled. But there is one condition. I need you to help me train the new staff in something that can't be taught from a manual, dignity. The service industry can be brutal, and people like Mr. Wellington are unfortunately common. I want my restaurants to be different. I want them to be places where respect flows in both directions, where the staff feels valued and protected. Sophia wiped her eyes, a genuine smile breaking through. Yes, absolutely. Excellent. Now, go home, take tomorrow off, and when you come back, we'll start planning the new location together. As Sophia left the office and walked through the restaurant toward the exit, she noticed that the atmosphere had completely shifted. The diners who had witnessed the confrontation smiled at her warmly. One older gentleman raised his glass in a subtle toast. A young couple at a corner table gave her a thumbs up. Outside, the rain had stopped. The streets were still wet, reflecting the city lights in 1,000 different colors. Sophia stood on the sidewalk for a moment, breathing in the cool night air. She pulled out her phone and called her mother. Mom. Yeah, it is me. I know it is lot. I wanted to tell you something happened tonight. Something good. Really good. As she walked toward the subway, she told her mother everything. Meanwhile, across town in his luxury penthouse overlooking Central Park, Marcus Wellington poured himself a glass of scotch and stared out at the city lights. His associates had left, their earlier enthusiasm dampened by the humiliation of being thrown out of Le Bernardin. His phone buzzed constantly with messages from colleagues who had already heard about the incident. Word traveled fast in Manhattan's elite circles. But something else was bothering Marcus, something gnawing at the edges of his consciousness. It wasn't the embarrassment or anger, though both were present. It was something he hadn't felt in a very long time. Shame. Real, genuine shame. He thought about his father, who had been a carpenter in New Jersey, who had worked with his hands and treated everyone with respect. His father, who had died 10 years ago, never having seen Marcus make his fortune, but who probably wouldn't have been proud of who his son had become. Marcus looked at his reflection in the dark window. When had he become this person? When had he started believing that money gave him the right to treat others as less than human? He thought about Sophia's face, about the quiet dignity with which she had refused his degrading offer, about Marguerite's withering assessment of his character. He set down his glass and did something he hadn't done in years. He sat at his desk and wrote a letter. 3 days later, an envelope arrived at Le Bernardin addressed to Sophia Moreau. Inside was a handwritten letter on expensive stationery. Dear Miss Moreau, I am writing the apologies for my inexcusable behavior on Tuesday evening. There is no justification for how I treated you. I allowed my ego and sense of entitlement to override basic human decency, and for that, I am deeply sorry. You showed more strength and character in that moment than I have shown in years. You reminded me that dignity cannot be bought or sold, and that true worth has nothing to do with welfare status. I understand that an apology does not erase what happened, but I hope you will accept it nonetheless. I have made a donation of $50,000 in your name to the American Cancer Society, designated specifically for patients who cannot afford treatment. It is a small gesture, but perhaps it can help others the way I failed to help you that evening. I wish you nothing but success in all your future endeavors. Sincerely, Marcus Wellington. Sophia read the letter twice, sitting in the break room before her shift. She didn't know what to feel. The apology felt genuine, and the donation would help many people struggling with cancer, including patients like her mother. But she also knew that one letter didn't erase a lifetime of entitled behavior, and the real change took more than words on expensive paper. Still, it was something. A beginning, perhaps. She folded the letter carefully and placed it in her locker. Then she put on her uniform and went out to the floor, ready to start another shift. In 2 weeks, she would begin training for her new position as manager. Her mother's next round of treatments was scheduled, and this time, the bills would be covered. As she moved through the restaurant, taking orders and delivering meals with the same professionalism and care she always had, Sophia realized something important. That night with Marcus Wellington had changed her life, but not in the way he had intended. It hadn't been his money that made the difference. It had been her refusal of it. It had been her insistence on her own dignity, her unwillingness to be reduced to a spectacle for someone else's amusement. Marguerite watched from the kitchen entrance, observing Sophia interact with her tables. She saw the way Sophia made each customer feel seen and valued, the way she handled both complaints and compliments with equal grace. She had made the right choice. That evening, as Sophia finished her shift and walked out into the New York night, she paused again on the sidewalk. The city stretched out before her, vast and indifferent and full of both cruelty and kindness. She thought about her father's words, about never letting anyone make her small. She hadn't, and she never would. Somewhere across town, Marcus Wellington sat in his office, staring at a photograph of his father. He had a long road ahead of him, a lifetime of behavior to humiliate and amend. But for the first time in years, he was looking at himself honestly. Money could buy many things, he had learned, but the most valuable things in life, the things that truly mattered, were the things it could never purchase. Respect earned through humility, dignity maintained through courage, character forged through the choices we make when no one is watching. These were the lessons learned that rainy March evening at Le Bernardin, lessons that would echo through the lives of everyone who had witnessed them, reminding them that in a world obsessed with wealth and status, the most powerful currency of all is simply being a decent human being. The restaurant continued to thrive. Sophia's new location opened in Brooklyn to rave reviews 6 months later. Marcus gradually changed his behavior, though he would struggle with his demons for years to come, and Marguerite continued to run her restaurants with the same principles that had guided her for 4 decades. Excellence in food, yes, but more importantly, excellence in how we treat one another. Because at the end of the day, that was what truly mattered, not the money in your wallet or the title on your business card, but the integrity in your heart and the respect you showed to every person you met, regardless of their station in life. That was the real lesson of that evening. That was the twist that no one, least of all Marcus Wellington, had seen coming. That the person with the most power in the room wasn't the wealthy hedge fund manager with his expensive suit and thick wallet. It was the waitress in the simple black uniform who refused to compromise her dignity for any price.